The first order of business is the roll call, starting at the left.
Jesse Gonzalez, so they do Gonzalez.
Yes. Member Burke?
Present.
Member Burbank?
Here.
Member Gonzalez?
Yes, you're here.
I didn't hear. Yes, here.
Member Munoz?
Present.
Secretary Pfeffer?
Here.
Vice Chair Strozik? Chair Northey?
Here.
Alternate Lilly? Alternate Kimmerling? Alternate Rodriguez?
Here.
And alternate Webster?
Wow. Okay, we are rolled. The next order of business is the election of officers.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Ron Paradise, Community Services, for the record. According to Section 110-1200 of the city's codes, annually, the Planning and Zoning Board is to have elections on the first calendar year meeting. This is the first calendar year meeting. Just to remind you all of the process, some of you may have not taken place in these elections before, but the intent is that the Secretary call the meeting to order, which Secretary Pfeffer did do, and now it is appropriate for Mr. Pfeffer, as acting as Secretary, to call for nominations for the chairperson.
Okay. I'd like to hear for nominations for the chairperson.
I'll nominate Mrs. Northey on account of she's doing a wonderful job. I would like to nominate Mrs. Northey on account of she's doing a wonderful job.
I second.
Any seconds?
I second.
Any other nominations?
Mr. Burma, what about you? Will you accept my nomination?
There's a couple of reasons that I can't really accept a nomination. One is because I don't want her to really have to get up. And the other reason is, unbeknownst to some people in the room, I am running for the city commission. And if I am elected, I'll have to resign anyway. And that would result in having 2 elections this year alone. And that's unnecessary.
Okay. Any further nominations? Nominations are closed. I guess
Can you call a vote?
Even though there's one person, we need to vote.
Yes, please do.
Do we do a vote by roll call?
That'd be fantastic.
Okay. You're on.
All right, Member Burke?
Yes.
Member Burbank? Well, I was asking if you're in favor, but you did the motion, so I'm guessing you are.
Okay, yes, oh, yes.
Member Gonzalez?
Yes.
Member Munoz?
Yes.
Secretary Pfeffer?
Yes.
Vice Chair sorry.
Okay.
Alternate Rodriguez?
Yes.
And Chair Northey?
Yes.
Excellent. By 7-0 vote, Member Northey is the chairman again.
The gavel passes back to Chair Northey, and
Oh, that was quick.
you did really well, Doctor. The gavel passes back to Chair Northey, and now it's customary for the chair to call for nominations for the vice chair.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying that, because I would have forgotten that. Okay, open the floor for nominations for vice chair.
I would like to nominate Member Ruben Munoz as vice chair.
Okay. Is there other nominations for vice chair? Is there, nominations, do they don't require a second, correct? Or they do?
I think it would be good to have a second.
Okay, is there a second to that nomination? What was the nomination? Yeah.
Ruben.
Okay, he'll second. Okay. Is there any other nominations?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the nomination.
Okay, what was
I
the
nominated Ruben Munoz.
Okay,
Okay, and he seconded.
okay.
Dr. Pfeffer? Excuse me? Okay, nominated Susan Burke. Susan, would you accept the nomination if we get a second?
Yes.
Okay, is there a second for Susan?
As an alternate. Can I second that as an alternate, or?
Yes, you can.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll second that nomination.
Okay. All right, we have nominations. Are there other nominations? If not, we'll ask for a roll call vote. And it's Ruben Muniz and Susan Burke who are nominated for vice chair.
All right, for Munoz being the vice chair, Member Burke, are you for or for Munoz?
Well,
Against, I'm for
wait,
myself.
just a moment. Why would we not just go down and say who we're,
We can do that.
I think that'd be easier.
Okay.
Okay?
Now that I'm in on the spot.
All right.
Susan,
And Burbank,
Yes.
are you going for Munoz?
No, I'm going to go with the second.
Okay. And Ms. Burke?
Susan Burke.
Okay. And Mr. Rodriguez?
Burke.
And Chair Northey?
Burke?
Yes, sir. And Mr. Munoz? And Member Gonzalez?
Okay, so congratulations, Susan. You're the vice chair of the Planning and Zoning Committee. Congratulations. Okay,
Last-
we need to do treasurer, right?
Secretary, last but not
Secretary, I'm
least, the
sorry,
secretary.
We're going to double
Secretary.
your pay.
Okay, we need nominations for secretary. Do I hear any names brought forward? Can I nominate?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay, I would nominate Alan Pfeffer as who serves as secretary now, if you would continue to do that. Okay, is there a second to that?
I will second that.
Thank you, Tom. Okay, we have a first and a second for Dr. Pfeffer. Is there anybody else that wants to put their name into nomination for secretary? You did a good job on the elections, guys. Okay, hearing none, then he is elected unanimously by consent, if I'm correct on that. And unfortunately, I don't have Councilmember Patterson here to correct me if I'm wrong, so. Okay, so we now have, congratulations, Dr. Pfeffer, and we're delighted that you accepted that. Okay.
Just a quick correction. You're supposed to call for a voting. Doesn't mean that everybody vote for that person in favor, even if it's a
Okay,
nominee.
that's fine. Let's do a roll
Yeah,
call vote.
that's supposed to be like that.
And Member Burke?
Yes.
Member Burbank?
Yes.
Member Gonzalez? Yes. Member Munoz?
No.
Member Pfeffer? Alternate Rodriguez?
Yes.
And Chair Northey?
Excited to vote yes. Now, 6-1 vote on in
Correct.
support.
That's the way it works.
Okay, I think that we have our election of officers taken care of, and we will move to approval of minutes and the agenda. The minutes are from December 15th, 2021. Has everybody had an opportunity to read them? And if so, are there any corrections to the minutes? If not, they'll be filed as presented.
Yes,
I'm waiting for corrections. Thank you. Minutes are filed. Okay, we'll move to presentation, awards, and reports. Do we have anything to you? I don't see anything on the agenda, Ron.
No, ma'am.
Okay, and do we have any public that would like to speak? Because that is our next item, public forum. It's because Ron does boring meetings, so. Okay.
Sometimes.
No, usually they're pretty exciting, actually. Okay, we'll move to old business. I don't see any old business in front of us. So we will move to new business. And Ron, you are up. You're going to talk about ordinance number 05-2022, amending the comprehensive plan of the city of Deltona by amending the capital improvement element, providing for the replacement of the capital improvement project 5-year schedule. And there's a series of attachments there.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ron Paradise, City of Deltona Community Services for the record. Ordinance 05-2022 is the city's annual update to the capital improvement element. Some of you that may have sat in this capacity for a number of years recollect that this topic or this item comes up every year. This is a state mandate, and the city is required to update its capital improvement element in light of recent local government fiscal activity, i.e. the city budget, okay? And what this is essentially is an analysis to ensure that the city has financially underpinned its level of service standards for Class A concurrency items within its comprehensive plan. Those Class A concurrency items are solid waste, parks, potable water, schools, transportation, stormwater, and wastewater. There is a report, a level of service analysis report that is part of this capital improvement update. And based on staff's analysis, just kind of cutting to the chase, the city has maintained and continues to maintain its level of service standards articulated in its comprehensive plan. Now, supporting documentations to this report include excerpts from the city's budget. And that is already decided policy, and it is not the intent of this process or this public hearing to revisit elements of the budget, like I said, that were decided in September of 2021 by the City Commission. They only merely serve as support documentation for the level of service analysis. With that being said, I'd be happy to field any questions you all have with regard to the level of service analysis that's associated with the capital improvement element update.
Are you raising? No, okay. Okay. Any questions on that for Ron? Yeah, I'm sorry, Dr. Pfeffer. Go ahead.
You know, the level of service we use is kind of technical, meaning, you know, there's 3.3 of something, and the goal is what it is, but there's nothing in here that says how satisfied the voters are with the level of service we provide on these things. So are there mechanisms for capturing the number of complaints and whether they're acted upon?
We have not analyzed the satisfaction levels with regard to the city's established level of service standards, other than to say that they are part of the comprehensive plan, and there is a process of which, you know, involve public input to formulate those level of service standards.
I mean, I guess that's my complaint. I'm a member of this Facebook group called Neighborhoods.
Neighbor to neighbor.
And there's a lot of complaints. I mean, some of them are frivolous, some of them are serious in terms of potholes and roads and things like that. And I think we'd be remiss to not get a handle on how well we're doing versus, you know, how many gallons of sewage per household there is. I mean, that begs the question of what I would call level of service.
Yeah, and I think that you bring up a good point with regard to the satisfaction level of service, and I'm kind of foreshadowing future events here, but the city in the next number of months is going to start to gear up and do some public scoping in preparation for the update of the city's comprehensive plan. Like I said, that process is going to protract out in the next number of years, and this body is going to be intimately involved in it because eventually there's going to be a report that comes to this body for acceptance or recommendation of acceptance to the city commission, and then there will be amendments to the city's comprehensive plan. Again, that is going to protract out over a number of years.
Ron, has the city ever thought of, and I understand what Dr. Pepper's saying, does the city ever do any kind of surveys? Do they send, like, I think y'all did a park survey recently, because I believe I participated in that. So do you ever do other surveys with other elements that would go into the comprehensive plan or the capital plan?
Yeah, with regard to surveying, the last surveying activity that came out of Planning and Development Services was a survey that went out in the water bill, and it was posted through other venues with regard to the revisions to the city's land development code that happened, I think, in 2014, 15, and 16. And yeah, we did survey the community with regard to their expectations regarding the land development regulations.
So would it be appropriate for this committee to submit a recommendation to the elected officials, to the city commission, that they entertain a survey instrument, to, as part of, I know we're doing a strategic plan update, but I think a survey instrument, would that work for you, Doctor?
I'd also like to collect the complaints as opposed to,
Yeah, I don't know how
I think
they
it's
do that.
important to keep in mind, too, that potholes, that's a maintenance matter, okay?
Right.
That's not captured or intended to be captured by the level of service standard. Level of service is associated with capacity. If we have like a water main break based on some sort of maintenance issue or an accident, and people are dissatisfied with that, reasonably so, that is not necessarily a level of service failure. That is a maintenance matter. So I think we look at what is level of service. And do we ever hear about anybody not having enough water or water pressure in this city, for example? Have we heard about people not being able to flush their toilets because the city's sewer system isn't operating? Do we hear about, trash buildup on such and such a street because the city's not managing solid waste? And you may have a more accurate pulse on kind of the day-to-day disposition out there, but from my perspective and from dealing with our public interface people, I haven't heard a lot of issues with regard to, hey, I don't have water, which is pretty serious. I hear stuff like, well, Waste Pro forgot to pick up, well, I shouldn't pick on Waste Pro, but our hauler forgot to pick up my yard trash. We call them, Waste Pro is contractually obligated, and they do go out and pick it up. And that's not a level of service, failure with regard to the hauler forgetting to pick up somebody's trash one time.
I was involved in the quality improvement program for Glastonbury when I was on the town council. And, excuse me, we developed, how fast does somebody get back to a complaintee in terms of a response, and then how fast is that satisfied and stuff. And I just feel like this isn't in itself enough.
And I don't think this is the right vehicle for those types of, service questions about, managing complaints and so forth.
So would it be appropriate for the city commission to have a presentation on the complaint process, from the staff? I mean, I hear what Alan is saying. I agree that this is planning and zoning, and that's not really a planning and zoning issue, but I think it's still an issue that is important.
I think this is a topic that should be taken up independent of the capital improvements element.
Okay.
Madam Northey, Ron mentioned that the city is planning on having scoping meetings, and this will all come up then,
During
and then they'll
scoping.
make some sort of presentation, I'm sure.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
And you will make sure that we are, not as a board, but individually, we will be made aware of the public participation process as it moves forward?
Yeah, there will be ample notice, and like I said, it's going to take a while for it to ramp
Yeah.
up.
Okay.
But we've already seen some of that, initial visioning, if you will, on February 5th in
Yeah.
the context of the strategic planning effort.
Right. Okay, all right.
I have a question.
Yeah, okay. Susan?
Yes.
Ms. Burke?
What role, if any, did the new census data play in this 5-year service plan?
An enormous role.
So what do our numbers look like? Did we increase as much as we expected in population?
We did increase in the population. We're at about 93,800 individuals now, and these numbers and these projections are based on an assumed growth rate of 2.5%, baselined off of that census number.
Okay. What did we project in the past? Did we project more than
We've always used 2.5%,
All right.
which is pretty was pretty aggressive, actually.
Okay, Tom, did you have?
Yes, ma'am, thank you. Within the document on page 18, there's reference to an ADA transition plan.
Correct.
ADA transition has been found to be outdated. The city is working with consultants to complete a transition plan. Is this going to be something that's going to require changes to the land development code? And if so, it would come here, correct?
Yes, it would, and it may. I think what that's going to impact more is the road construction of pedestrian facilities out there. Because what that ADA transition plan is doing is going out concentrically from civic and uses and institutional uses like schools, city hall, and analyzing the pedestrian facilities to ensure that they're ADA compliant, and inventorying those areas that may not be, and targeting them for, eventual retrofit.
So this is a liability prevention issue.
It could be viewed that way, but more so what it is to ensure that the city is adhering to ADA compliance so it can continue to take advantage of grant opportunities coming out of the TPO.
Thank you, Ron.
Okay. Let's just go down the aisle here. Mr. Rodriguez, do you have anything you want to ask or any? You good?
No, when we're talking about level of service, I think we need to differentiate between level of service versus the quality of that service. Isn't that what we're talking about, basically?
I think that could be one way to differentiate that, and there is no qualitative analysis as part of this report.
Yeah, because what I read or what I understand from the level of service is that what you are going to do, okay, that is required for you to do. But then how well you do that, that's another chapter or another book.
That is correct, and like I said, that's totally independent of this exercise.
Mr. Gonzalez?
Yes, do we have a long-range forecast for sewer systems, and do we have the capability to withstand the upgrade at our treatment plants?
We do have a long-range plan. Most of that involves transporting and treating of wastewater at the Eastern Wastewater Facility. There's been some discussion about perhaps retrofitting or even mothballing the Fisher plant and directing some of the flow in a certain portion of the city to a master regional facility in DeBerry, operated by Volusia County.
Okay, so there is a forecast.
Yes, there is a forecast.
Thank you.
Mr. Muniz?
No.
Okay, anything else, Mr.
Yeah.
Dr. Pfeffer?
Part of the capital budget depends on funding from the state or the county. Like when we have a development going in, we say, we're counting on a third or two-thirds or wherever it is from the government. In the past 5 years, how accurate has that been, which will lead us to have confidence in how accurate we'll be in the future.
Can you repeat the question again?
Yeah, when we were looking at the place on Austin,
Okay, yes, sir.
there was a work that had to be done on the roads.
Correct.
And you said basically that some portion of it is going to come from the state. And when we do sewer plants and stuff like that, there's always an added in, something is going to come from some grants. And I'm asking, in order to get more confidence in the 5-year plan going forward, which depends on some grants, how accurate were we in the past 5 years so that we can know what we're doing?
First of all, one thing about grants. A local government will never be able to operate a robust infrastructure program utilizing grants. Okay? So most of these monies come directly that deal with revenue, that deal with infrastructure, come directly from revenue sources from the city. Gas taxes, for example, its allocation of gas taxes is used by the city for roadway improvements. Impact fees, which is directly related to development, comes through and is used for roadway improvements. And grants is a small percentage of roadway improvements, for example. We use grants too for wastewater and water work type of activity also. But again, the majority of that comes through, bonds, and which is, of course, satisfied through debt service based on future revenues and so forth.
I mean, in that Austin development, it was like 30% of the road work or something like that was going to be grants or support.
I don't recollect that. I think you may be confused with proportionate fair share.
I don't know. I'm just wanting to know how sound the basis of the money going forward is based on the track record.
It would be rare for justification for development be solely predicated on a local government securing a grant of which to ensure that some public facility needed to support that development would occur.
My experience from actually my days at the county is that the forecasts are updated on an annual basis. They're updated on a less annual basis if needed based on the current conditions in the market. I recall really clearly when the Great Recession hit, and it came upon us pretty quick, and I remember that the county government, and I'm sure all the city governments, were reactive immediately. They didn't wait until the end of the year. They had to be adopting policies and procedures that got them through that process.
That financial planning.
Yeah.
I remember those days well.
Yeah.
It was all hands on deck.
Yeah. So, okay. Do you have anything else for us?
No, ma'am.
We need to make a motion?
Yes, and you need to take
I
a
would
vote.
like to make the motion.
Okay, Mr. Muniz?
I would like to make the motion to approve Ordinance 05-2022, amending the comprehensive plan of the city of Deltona. I think that's...
Okay, is that appropriate motion?
You are recommending that the city commission adopt and otherwise forward this on to the Department of Economic Opportunity.
Thank you, Ruben. Is there a second to that motion?
I will.
Okay, thank you, Tom. All right.
We need a roll call, Ron.
Roll call for this?
Yes,
Okay.
please.
Okay.
Okay.
Member Burke,
Yes.
Member Burbank,
Yes.
Member Gonzalez,
Yes.
Member Munoz,
Yes.
Secretary Pfeffer,
No.
Alternate Rodriguez,
Yes.
and Chair Northey.
Yes. Okay. Thank you, Ron.
You're very welcome.
Okay, we'll move into, hold on a minute. We'll move into staff comments. Is there anything else staff would like to, Marcia, Ron, anything that you all?
I do.
Okay.
First of all, I'd like to thank you all for coming out at this special time, okay? And, you know, I appreciate you all being flexible and working with us on that so we can advance these initiatives along. And I'm just going to kind of give you a heads up that for next month, we're going to reschedule this board's meeting again for March 23rd. The reason for that is because there are three sitting members that are up for vote, which will occur, their terms expire on the 15th, and there will be a city commission meeting to determine the affirmation of those or a nomination again on the 20th. And that was the rationale, because we were afraid that then it would be 4 votes. There will be a rezoning quasi-judicial hearing coming up, most likely on that agenda. So we wanted to ensure that we had bona fide sitting members on the PZ board.
Is that the Parma?
No, it is not. Parma.
Okay.
Parma, just as a footnote, Parma, Island Walk North, got deferred by the city commission here. And just as a heads up, they did, at the request or the recommendation, with the recommendation of staff, remand that rezoning back to the Planning and Zoning Board, because we feel that, based on comments, that there will be material alterations to that plan.
Okay, but we don't have a date for that then? yet.
Negative.
Okay.
The ball's in the court of the applicant.
Oh, okay, so our March meeting will be
The 23rd.
the 23rd. Okay, does
Can
everybody have?
you check the calendar and make sure that's a Wednesday?
It's a Wednesday.
It's a Wednesday.
Okay, I got this one right.
Okay, is that it? You got anything else for us,
Yes, ma'am,
Ron?
it is.
Okay, we'll move to board comments and member comments. I'll start down with Tom.
Yes, thank you very much. I'm sure pretty much everybody in the room is aware that I've got kind of a bug up my ass about this food truck ordinance. I've expressed the opinion, you've read it, they've read it, others have read it, that due to the significance of the changes to that ordinance since we first saw it, that I feel strongly that it should come back to this board for review and for our opinion. That's just an opinion of mine, and I expect no comment forthcoming from staff or you, but I just want to express that opinion out loud for the record.
Okay, thank you. Susan?
Nothing additional.
Okay. Okay.
I voted no on the budget, not because I disagree with the amount of the budget, but because I want to flag that I think the service issue needs to be sorted out, and the budget is one of the weapons one has to do it.
I think that you make some good points. I think there's probably a way to address it with the city commission. I think they would be open to hearing from you, that you'd like some information.
How do I do that without violating a sunshine ordinance?
Marcia, you want to talk about how he?
Sure. Basically, you have the right to communicate with the commission.
Yeah.
You just can't, by however you wish, but you just can't communicate with each other outside of this meeting. So there's no prohibition that because you're a member of the PNC that you can't come to a commission meeting and talk to them if you'd like, or you could also communicate with them by an email. So you're not prohibited in any way. But please do not talk to any of the other members of this board in that manner. Okay.
Well, I got a question.
Go ahead, Mr. Munoz.
Yeah, regarding the sunshine, when you say, like, we just finished the subject, we approve or disapprove that ordinance, whatever ordinance. After that happened, we know like free to talk about that?
Yes.
Like, right now, we can talk, I disagree, yeah, I
Yes,
agree with you.
you can, because
But-
that ordinance will, now.
It's out of
that-
house, correct?
That's right. And that same subject matter will never come in front of you again. By the same token, when, say, you talk about a particular issue or something that could conceivably come back to you, and you still might have to vote on a part of it, then no, you may not. Okay.
Okay. Anything else, Ruben? No. Okay. Jesse?
I don't see how we could have possibly conceived Palmer Drive coming back. There was probably some discussion amongst ourselves about the righteousness or the wrongness of our decision. After it went to the commission, they decided to remand it back to a different time. Sometimes it's just impossible.
But that's also, I would look at it differently, because the reason they're sending it back to you is that based on what
Major changes.
was told to them by the applicant and staff, that there were some real key issues that appeared in that staff report with regards to FEMA maps, and also the report from the soil and, I forget
Water,
the,
soil and
Soil
water.
and Water Conservation
Yes,
District
and-
Board of Supervisors.
yes, and that's that you are a member of. So there was a real concern that the application as submitted needed to change, and also on the part of the applicant. So whatever comes back to you is not going to be the same as the one you had before and will not be the same with regard to how each of you may or may not have voted on it, or what you may or may not have said.
Thank you for clearing that up.
Sure.
Okay. Mr. Gonzalez, anything for the record? Okay. I would just ask staff, I know that we're required as a group, as members of the P&Z, to have education training annually. I believe I forget how many hours it is annually. So I would ask that if we could continue to get information on opportunities for that, so that everybody is able to meet that requirement. Okay?
And one of the members asked me about that, and I told them to chat with the ladies over there.
Okay.
Because they can make them aware, or perhaps, there's something they weren't able to take when it came along. So this is a very important issue, and we want to facilitate all of you having the ability to partake of whatever we can find for you.
Great. That would be helpful. Okay. Seeing no other business, was there a motion to adjourn?
I so move.
Then all those in favor of adjournment? Aye. Okay. Thank you all very much. Thank you, staff. Thank you, Rocky. I know you're back there. Thank you so much. Here's the signatures. I signed those